Edward Monk Eastman was a New York City gangster who founded and led the Eastman Gang in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. His gang was one of the most powerful street gangs in New York City. Eastman is considered to be one of the last of the 19th century New York City gangsters who preceded the rise of Arnold Rothstein and the Jewish Mafia. In fact, it is believed that at the end of his life, Eastman had already begun working for Mr. Big, otherwise known as Arnold Rothstein. On Christmas night in 1920, Eastman was drinking in the Williamsburg neighborhood with friends. In fact, he was drinking specifically at the corner of which we are approaching right now, at the intersection of Broadway and Driggs in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. The bank on the left-hand side and Peter Luger's across the street already existed at the time. So the Court Cafe, where Eastman and company were drinking that night, was across Driggs, either opposite the bank or opposite Luger's. Exactly which side of the street I'm not sure. However, the Court Cafe was located at this intersection in 1920. At the time, Eastman actually lived on Driggs Avenue, just a few doors down to the left of the bank at 801 Driggs. It was around midnight that Eastman and his cohorts summoned a car to this intersection to take them across the Williamsburg Bridge and head towards the Bluebird Cafe, located at 62 East 14th Street in Manhattan. It was there that the heavy drinking continued and boisterous arguments began over money, with Eastman and a man by the name of Jerry Bohan particularly at odds. When they left the cafe at 4 a.m., Bohan quickly pulled a revolver and shot Eastman several times, leaving him lying dead at the corner of 4th Avenue and 14th Street. Here is the exact spot on the corner where Eastman died in 1920. And that is followed by what the area looks like today. Right now I'm walking away from the corner of 14th and 4th. This is where Bohan, after shooting Monk Eastman, threw his weapon down the steps of the subway entrance to my right. And then, in true gangster fashion, he jumped on the running board of an idling taxi and ordered the driver away from the scene. I'm sure that you've all seen an image of a gangster standing on the ledge of a fleeing car in the movies. The police, of course, were to have a hard time at first establishing what had happened. These were the days, after all, where it was best not to see, hear, or say anything. It was soon established that the man the police were looking for was one Jeremiah Jerry Bohan. Bohan turned himself in on New Year's Day in 1921. After the trial, when all was said and done, Bohan pleaded self-defense and was eventually convicted of manslaughter in the first degree. He was sentenced to 3 to 10 years and was incarcerated up the river in Sing Sing prison. However, Bohan only served 17 months before he was paroled. Eastman's power as one of the most feared gangsters in New York City was pretty much over by the time of his own release from Sing Sing prison in 1909. When he was released, his old gang had been broken up and split into several factions, and none of these factions wanted the notorious Eastman as its leader. He continued a life of petty crime and served several short prison terms. But in 1917, at the age of 42, he did something quite out of character. He enlisted in the army during World War I and was deployed to France with the regiment Orion's Roughnecks. As documented in the following article, Eastman served heroically in the war, and upon his return, the men who had served alongside him petitioned the New York governor to restore his American citizenship. Not only was Eastman's citizenship restored, but he was also pardoned of all previous crimes that he had committed. The funeral service for Monk Eastman took place right here in this section of Williamsburg. In fact, if you look over to the right there, right where you see the yellow auto repair sign, that was the exact location where Monk Eastman's wake was held and from where his body was taken to Cypress Hill Cemetery. Army pals of Monk Eastman put up the money for him to have a funeral service with full military honours. And 4,000 mourners lined the streets where we currently are to send him off as a heroic soldier. December 25th, going into December 26, 1920. The last night of Monk Eastman's life.